Welcome to today's Explainer. We are jumping right in today, and I am incredibly excited to share this one with you because we're looking at a single mind that literally engineered the foundations of our modern world. I am talking about John von Neumann. This guy was a polymath of such terrifying speed and unparalleled breadth that his own colleagues often half-jokingly wondered if he was actually human.
Now you might be wondering, okay, abstract, towering intellect is great, but how does that affect me? It can feel a bit disconnected from our daily lives. So ask yourself, who actually engineered the modern world? Because the astonishing truth is that von Neumann's mathematical fingerprints are literally on the smartphone in your pocket, the way global economics function, and the very strategies that kept the Cold War from turning hot. His mind didn't just solve problems, you guys, it built entire realities. Section 1. The Ultimate Child Prodigy.
All right, let's dive into this. To really get how one person could achieve all of that, we have to rewind to his origins in Budapest at the dawn of the 20th century. We need to establish just how superhuman this intellect was from the very start. So born in 1903, he enters the super rigorous Lutheran gymnasium by 1911. By age 18, when most of us are, let's be real, just trying to figure out how to do our own laundry, he was publishing his first mathematical paper. But what really drives home how incredibly fast his brain worked is 1926. To appease his pragmatic father, von Neumann studied chemistry in Berlin and Zurich, but simultaneously stayed enrolled back in Budapest to get his mathematics PhD. He earned his chemistry diploma and his doctorate in math at the exact same time. No big deal, right?
And his childhood feats? They're the stuff of legend. The young Johnzy, as he was called, was basically a walking parlor trick for his family's guests. He had this staggering eidetic memory. A guest would randomly pick a page from the Budapest telephone directory, and the 6-year-old von Neumann would read it over a few times, hand it back, and flawlessly recite the names, addresses, and numbers in precise order. Oh, and by age 8, he had casually finished reading a 44-volume universal history.
Section 2. Architect of the Digital World. Moving into his adulthood, we see this massive shift. He didn't just stay a prodigy, he became an architect. He essentially wrote the operating systems for two completely different realms, the subatomic world and the digital universe. And this brilliantly illustrates his unique approach. At the Institute for Advanced Study in Princeton, von Neumann worked right alongside Albert Einstein. But where Einstein was this solitary visionary seeking continuous, deterministic field theories, von Neumann was a pragmatic synthesizer. He looked at the completely chaotic new field of quantum mechanics and formalized it using statistical, non-deterministic math. He built the very mathematical foundation that quantum physics still uses today.
But his pragmatism definitely didn't stop at theoretical physics. During World War II, von Neumann needed massive computational power to model fluid dynamics, so he worked with the ENIAC, which was an early supercomputer. But there was a huge bottleneck. To change the ENIAC's program, operators had to literally unplug and rewire the machine by hand over several days. It was a nightmare. So he asked a simple, world-changing question. How do you change a computer's program without physically rewiring the machine?
Well, in 1945, he drafted a 101-page report outlining the solution. Today, it's known as the von Neumann architecture. He proposed that a computer should store its program instructions electronically in the exact same high-speed memory as its data. So what does this all mean for us? Why does it matter? Because this specific stored program concept is the exact foundational blueprint for almost every single digital device you and I use today.
Just look at these 5 components: input, control unit, arithmetic unit, memory, and output. That is the framework operating inside the laptop or phone you're using right this very second. He conceptualized the whole thing. He even foresaw what we now call the von Neumann bottleneck, which is that limitation where data and instructions have to share a single pathway between the processor and the memory. It restricts speed, because the computer can only process one piece of data at a time through that single path.
Okay, but wait, it gets even more mind-blowing. Fascinated by biological computation, von Neumann designed a theoretical cellular automaton. Think of it as a mathematical grid of self-updating squares. Through pure sheer mathematical logic, his theory of self-reproducing automata proposed that a machine could read instructions, build a replica of itself, and copy the instructions for its offspring. He accurately predicted the mechanism of biological replication, literally how DNA and ribosomes function, years before the physical structure of DNA was even discovered. He mathematically bridged the gap between computation and artificial life. Unbelievable.
Section 3. Game Theory and Global War.
So it's absolutely clear he understood machines and physics. But what about human behavior?
Let's see how von Neumann turns his formidable mind to global survival and the mathematics of human conflict. Back in 1928, he published a rigorous mathematical proof called the minimax theorem. Essentially, it states that in a zero-sum game, you can always find a rational strategy to minimize your maximum possible losses. By 1944, he expanded this into the theory of games and economic behavior. He literally created game theory, which permanently altered economics and set the stage for modern geopolitical strategy.
His contributions during World War II and the Cold War were massive and incredibly varied. He used fluid dynamics to model the explosive lenses for the atomic bomb dropped on Nagasaki. Later, he executed the incredibly complex calculations required to validate the hydrogen bomb. He even used the ENIAC to calculate the very first computerized 24-hour weather forecast, connecting abstract math to the Manhattan Project and the foundations of modern climatology all at the exact same time.
Viewing the high-stakes arms race of the Cold War purely through the strict, zero-sum logic of his game theory, von Neumann actually became a staunch advocate for preventive war. He calculated that since the Soviet Union would inevitably reach nuclear parity, the only mathematically rational move was a preemptive strike. Listen to this quote: "If you say why not bomb them tomorrow, I say why not today. If you say at 5 o'clock, I say why not 1 o'clock." It chillingly encapsulates how unflinchingly he applied cold, rational logic to global survival.
Yet his life was one of this fascinating duality, because despite his hawkish, unyielding military strategy, his ethical compass toward his scientific peers was deeply nuanced. During the 1954 security clearance hearings of J. Robert Oppenheimer, when a lot of people abandoned the former Los Alamos director, von Neumann stepped right up. He testified passionately in Oppenheimer's defense, vouching unequivocally for his loyalty under unimaginable pressure.
Section 4. A tragic, brilliant final chapter.
Beyond the equations and the intense military strategies, we really need to look at his humanity. We're going to explore his colorful personal life, his unique philosophy, and the heartbreaking decline of his final days. Von Neumann was definitely not your stereotypical, reclusive, quiet genius. Not at all. He was a total bon vivant. He loved expensive cars, tailored suits, and throwing loud parties. He actually thrived in chaos, famously blasting German marching music so loudly it disturbed Albert Einstein down the hall. And beautifully, his work was a real partnership. His second wife, Clara Dan, was a brilliant thinker who became one of the world's first software programmers, translating his abstract equations into the physical code needed to actually run the ENIAC.
His philosophy on life and learning was wildly practical, a concept known as epistemological instrumentalism. Basically, he didn't care about absolute metaphysical certainty, he just cared if a model worked. There's this famous story where a younger colleague was struggling to intuitively understand a complex concept, and von Neumann just tells him, "Young man, in mathematics, you don't understand things, you just get used to them." He firmly believed that humans must adapt their minds to complex systems, rather than demanding the universe shrink down to fit our own intuition.
So the crucial point here is that a man defined by lightning-fast cognition ultimately had to face the cruelest of physical realities. In 1955, he was diagnosed with advanced cancer, likely from radiation exposure at Los Alamos. As the cancer reached his brain, he spent his final days in a specialized suite at Walter Reed Hospital. And because his mind contained the most sensitive nuclear secrets on Earth, armed military guards stood outside his door 24/7 to ensure his pain medication didn't cause him to accidentally spill classified data. It is just a deeply tragic irony.
In his final weeks, von Neumann, who had been a secular agnostic his entire adult life, completely shocked his friends. He asked for a Catholic priest and converted. But even in the absolute face of death, he applied his beloved game theory. He invoked Pascal's wager, reasoning mathematically that if there is even a possibility of eternal damnation, the only rational, risk-minimizing strategy is to believe in God. He played the minimax strategy right to the very end.
John von Neumann decoded the complexities of the physical and digital worlds, beautifully separating the hardwired constraints of a machine from the infinite possibilities of its programmable software. Which leaves us with this thought. If one single mind can synthesize disciplines to rewrite the rules of quantum physics, create digital computing, and architect global economics, what limits actually exist on our own human hardware when we choose to upgrade our mental software? Thank you so much for exploring this brilliant mind with me, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.